Mr. Lenderking, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
I want to ask you about your opinion of the change of the top Yemeni leadership and the formation of the Presidential Command Council or Center. Do you think this will advance the peace process that eluded everybody in the past?
I do think that the opportunity of a new Presidential Leadership Council creates a more representative approach to Yemen. And we see that a number of individuals who are in heated rivalry with each other have joined together to show unity. And I think that the ability of the council to deliver services and be representative of the Yemeni people is going to be the critical test. So far, it looks very promising to us. When you couple that development with the fact that there's a truce in Yemen since April 2nd, I think this is really a significant moment for Yemen.
And I want to ask you about the truce, because you spent some time in the region. Do you think this truce that's supposed to be for 2 months can be built upon so we can reach a full ceasefire? What can be done to sustain it?
I think the fact that this truce came about under very difficult circumstances has been a lot of fighting. No one knows that more than the Yemeni people, but you also look at 400 cross-border attacks against Saudi Arabia, the UAE last year. And I think the parties were not convincing the world that there was a political solution to the conflict. And the fact that the parties have taken difficult decisions, nobody got what they wanted, everybody had to compromise, and they made public statements of support for the truce. They came out publicly and supported the elements of the truce. This is all quite significant. Now it's on those parties to fulfill the obligations that they made, most importantly to the Yemeni people, but also to the international community.
But it has been some setbacks. You know, the first flight that's supposed to take off from Sana'a to Amman was held. So who's to blame? I mean, both parties saying it is the other side. Do you think this is significant, or this will jeopardize in the long run the ceasefire?
We were disappointed that the flight that was announced by Yemeni Airlines did not take place last Sunday. It really is a matter now of the parties doubling down and making their commitments and finding the will to compromise. If they approach any problem that they tackle going forward with a spirit of cooperation and keeping in mind, I think, the interests of the Yemeni people first and foremost, and they will find solutions. And therefore, I think they can overcome the obstacles that they faced with the flight, get that back on track. The flights are an essential part of the truce. The oil ships moving and offloading into Hodeidah at a certain pace, the flights 2 times a week. The Jordanian government has stepped up to allow this to happen. We're actively talking to the Egyptian government as well. These are essential pieces. And then the access issues, Taiz Road and the other places that have been under siege-like conditions have to be opened up. This is about freedom of movement and about the Yemeni people getting a break from 7 years of intense fighting.
Do you see the ball now is in the Houthis' court, that they have to prove that actually they are interested in some kind of political framework and they will stick to the truce?
I think all the parties are under pressure because the truce has generated expectations inside Yemen. I think there's immediate tangible benefit. For example, we know that certain parts of the country that were hit by war, where the fighting has stopped, aid has been able to flow into those areas. There's immediate impact, there's tangible impact. And when you look at the flights, as we were talking about, medical patients, Yemenis who have not been able to fly out of their capital city for years, having the chance to do that, these are game changers. And it's on the parties to find a way to move through and demonstrate, I think, that they see negotiation, compromise, and political talks as the way forward, not fighting.
Do you see the removal of the Houthis from the FTO list, the Foreign Terrorist Organization, has been beneficial to the peace process, to the administration, that when the president said it's priority for him to end the war in Yemen? How did it work?
The president said that ending the war was a priority for this administration, and the reason that the administration took the Houthis off the FTO was for humanitarian reasons. It was to prevent further humanitarian deterioration. The president also said, let's give diplomacy a chance, and he has done that. And through our efforts, that of the United Nations, we now have a truce in Yemen for the first time in 7 years. Again, it doesn't solve all of Yemen's problems at one blow, but it is a very big step. And again, I think the parties need to be recognized for the compromises that they made to get to this point. Now they must follow through on the commitments that they've made. So there's more that needs to be done.
I see. The president told me in the last press conference that actually they're going to review the process of putting them back on the terror list. But now, considering what we have seen, do you think that might happen altogether, that you don't want them to be on the list because you want the process to go forward?
We want the process to go forward for sure, but the president has asked that we keep this situation under review, so we are doing that. But our focus right now is on securing the truce and also helping the new Yemeni leadership kind of meet the needs of the people in a way that may not have been done over the last few years. So we expressed our appreciation. We welcomed the economic package that the Saudi government and the Emirati government provided to the new leadership, the humanitarian pledges that have been made, and more must be done on that score to close the funding gap that exists. But if we can marshal these resources together and the government is able to do things in a tangible way and demonstrate its ability to connect with the Yemeni people, combined with the truce, we really have something going that's very positive.
So, as you mentioned, the Saudis has put billions of dollars. They have been committed to end this war, and the international community too, led by the UN and the United States. So what more can be done? What do you think the other countries can do to make it a focal point to go forward with this process?
We look forward to the GCC countries. I think they're all eager to play more of a role. The GCC, as you know, hosted Yemeni talks last month in Riyadh, which helped lead to some important breakthroughs. During my last trip, I went to many of the GCC capitals, talking to them about the important changes, about the need to fulfill pledges on the humanitarian side. And then I also talked with David Gressley, the UN humanitarian coordinator, about the Safar tanker and the need to address this imminent threat to the coastline along the Red Sea, which could endanger shipping, tourism, if this tanker, which is decaying, has 1.1 million barrels of oil on board, if it explodes or leaks. This is a catastrophe. We need to work together with the GCC countries to get this problem off the table. So I think there's a lot of space for the Gulf countries to continue to stay engaged, and their engagement is absolutely critical.
The administration described the war in Yemen as the worst humanitarian disaster in the 21st century. Do you think that this assistance that the United States and Saudis and other countries generously has been given to Yemenis is getting to the right people? Do you think that there is an apparatus where actually the normal Yemeni, the ordinary Yemeni, receive this assistance?
Well, I think there's been some very hard-fought progress made in terms of access and delivery. And by the way, this assistance that the United States provides, $585 million in the last pledging conference, all gets monitored very, very closely. So I feel quite confident that the American people should feel proud and confident that the assistance that we are providing is getting to the right people.
So it's not going to the Houthis, or they're not trying to get some of it?
I mean, assistance has to go to all areas of Yemen, whether they're controlled by one side or the other. I mean, that's our commitment. The people who are living under anybody's control can be suffering from one reason or another, and so we've got to get the assistance through to the Yemeni people.
And finally, as you know, Iran has been supporting and training the Houthis. Do you think that if there is an agreement with Iran on the nuclear issue, that might create some kind of a new atmosphere that will push this process forward that we have seen recently in Yemen?
We're all for a new atmosphere. We're all for a better relationship with Iran, as the JCPOA process is intended to lead us. Thus far, we haven't seen positive behavior from Iran in Yemen. And we know of many positive comments supporting the political process, talking about the importance of pushing solutions in Yemen through negotiation. We need to see that translated onto the ground by Iran, and believe me, we would welcome that if we saw such constructive engagement. Thus far, we haven't seen it. We are eager to, and we would welcome it.
And do you think the Houthis can take that decision in isolation of pressure from Iran if they wanted really to end this war?
I think the Houthis get a lot of support from Iran, and basically that support has been has inflamed the war in the view of the United States. So some independent decision making is necessary on the part of the Houthis. And by the way, that's the case with the Yemeni leadership also, that we want to see decision making that is oriented toward providing services and answering, really tangible, addressing really tangible needs of the Yemeni people.
I want to end by asking you, you have been to the region so many times, you have attended so many of these conferences. What did you see this time that actually led to this creation of a new energy, if you want, that could be built upon?
In this particular case, I saw 500 Yemenis eager to see change. I talked to many of them on the margins of the GCC event that was held. I talked to many of the women who were represented. There is a thirst for peace, and that comes through no matter what side you're talking to. And so I think that having given expression to those peaceful intentions, again, newly empowered leadership that is more representative of more voices in Yemen is very important. This is a big step for the country. Our support will continue very strongly. You will see me out in the region a lot supporting these efforts. It's time for a serious peace effort in Yemen, and I think we've made some important progress. We've got to capitalize on it.
Mr. Lenderking, thank you so much for this interview. Thank you
My
for
pleasure.
your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.